Her 9000's Game Room.
As I've pointed out most of the time, for the sake of these reviews, I'm playing a game from my very own collection, but sometimes if I see something cheap enough I will pick up a game with the sole purpose of reviewing it. The game I'm going to talk about today cost me £2, which is a price you really can't argue with when it comes to getting something to play on your Super Nintendo. The game, as you've probably guessed from clicking on this video, is Super Battle Tank. When I first put the cartridge in and started playing the game, another game instantly came to mind, and this was the old arcade machine Battlezone, which was a wire-framed vector graphics tank game from the early 80s. This was a feeling that never really left me, no matter how long I spent with the game. Sure, there's a big step up in graphics. After all, Battlezone's simple wireframes had been updated. Absolute had created an engine which used the same kind of blending of 2D and 3D graphics that Midway used to animate the characters in the first few Mortal Kombat games, which had led to something that, back in 1992, we all would have been more than happy to term realistic. In this case though, these newfound graphics didn't fill the whole screen. In fact, they only filled about a third of it, with the remaining room dedicated to one flat graphic used to represent the inside of the tank, showing your gauges and such. This kind of works in the way that if you were operating a tank, this is what you would see, but you can't help but wonder how much of this is done as a way to save on memory and resources. Was the game like this purely due to a cosmetic choice made by someone? Could this engine have showed the action on a full-size screen without slowing down or sputtering? These are questions I simply don't have enough information to answer. Okay, as for how this plays, well, the X button is used to accelerate and Y to decelerate, L and R are used for turning, select cycles through your 4 weapons, A fires the chosen weapon and B brings up the map, and the D-pad is used to aim your tank's turret. I think the controls are spot on. Given the buttons you have on a SNES pad and the way you would expect a tank to work, they couldn't have really done any better. These are simply the perfect controls for this type of game on this system at the time it came out. Sure, I've played other tank games in the arcade or on other systems where you've had more control or the controls have felt more realistic, but for a game at this time which was adapted to a SNES pad instead of having custom arcade controls, well, they did a damn fine job. So, interesting, pretty darn realistic graphics for the time, good controls. You'd think that this game had it all. But this is where things fall apart a little. The gameplay just, well, for want of a better description, feels kind of bland and repetitive. The way in which you take out every enemy is the same. This is because all of the tank and helicopter AI in this game basically use the exact same tactics, making it very predictable. The game basically goes like this: blow up as many enemies as you can before you get in trouble, then repair your damage at your base, rinse, lather, repeat. The game really needed to take some notes from something else around this kind of time period. For example, Desert Strike. Yes, you could argue in Desert Strike you're just flying your helicopter doing the same sort of thing, but then again they throw far more story at you and a lot more variation in goals and missions. I use this as an example as they both came out during the same year. The graphics may have moved on since the likes of Battlezone, but the actual gameplay itself really hasn't moved on from the arcade tank games of the 80s, leaving what was something new and fresh back then feeling kind of dated and rehashed, even if it does have a new coat of paint. The audio in the game is pretty average. The tank makes satisfying sounds both for its guns and its engines, which helps create the right kind of atmosphere, but beyond that there is one okay music track which is simply used in between mission briefings. I guess my main issue with this game is a lack of variety and a lack of polish. What could have been a great game instead ends up a rather simple tank blaster, which once you get past the graphics feels like even in 1992 it was old before it was released. I'd give this game a 5 out of 10. It's an average mixed bad kind of game. You could spend your money on much worse, but then you could also buy something a heck of a lot better. If you really want to try it, you can tend to find it on eBay and Amazon for around the £6 point, just for the cart, which is not too bad if you're dying to get yourself a new SNES game. But unless you're really into your tank games and military stuff, I'd give it a miss. Okay, that's Ker9000 signing off saying keep on gaming.